Hello, Galaxy. I'm Chris Pirillo, and you're watching the Locker Gnome Daily Report, or TLDR for short. I am streaming this recording live on Twitch. I'm there every night at 6 p.m., so if you want to geek out with me and the rest of the community, feel free to join us here. Of course, you can join the YouTube community by becoming a member. You click the join button here. It'd be amazing if you did. Of course, I also love all the Twitch subs as well, and I also love when you comment, because I've been hearting your comments. Is that wait, this I gotta not like this. This I'm still learning how to do this. This is the thing that you're supposed to do now. See, I'm not too old yet. I love when you comment and you clue me into something that otherwise I would not have known about. And this happened specifically today. Alt Dad Tech David Stevens on Twitter quoted an article from Anon Tech, and I've known Anon since before I think most of the world did. We were actually co-columnists in CPU Magazine back in the day. And he quoted, David quoted here on Twitter this article, quote, "Although scrolling through the viewport happens at 120 hertz, actual content animations seem to be limited to 60 hertz. So, the very thing that people have been gaslighting me on exists demonstrably. So the question is, why is Apple capping animations? Why? Why would they do that? Well, it could be that maybe they didn't get around to them. That's entirely possible. It could be that maybe they don't feel that it takes away from the experience by not having a completely fluid 120 FPS when it's possible to push 120 FPS, like through an animation. Maybe they're trying to save battery life. Maybe it's a combination of all three. I don't have any insight as to why they made the decision that they made, but all of those are cogent reasons. What I'm sitting here to tell you is that this kind of outcome is exactly the type of experience that I've been speaking to for years, when I have said Android is much more fluid than iOS, whether we're talking at 60 FPS or 120 FPS, and specifically at the operating system level. We're not talking about the specs. We're not talking about, hey, look at this. I got a slab of glass and it's a ProMotion display, so it's running 120 frames per second. Is it all the time? Well, I can tell you, just in using it, that it's not always a fluid 120. So if you're looking for a fluid 120 FPS experience, the iPhone isn't it. It's a smoother experience on a ProMotion display that the iPad Pro has, the current gen at least. It's very fluid. So it's not that Apple doesn't have the ability to do this. They just decided not to. So my belief, if I were to, put my finger in the air and kind of judge, which way the wind is blowing, it would specifically be because they are trying to save battery life. I can't fault them for that, but give us a toggle. Give us a toggle. Give people a toggle. No, they'll toggle it. Well, that's the idea. I mean, this to me is, putting my product manager hat on for a second, it speaks to the overarching experience. And if you've got an otherwise fluid display that you're intentionally capping at 60, it upsets me when Google does it with Google Maps. And it certainly upsets me when Apple does this throughout the entire iPhone experience on a ProMotion display with the iPhone 13 Pro Max. So if you're looking for the most fluid smartphone today, the answer is not an iPhone 13 Pro Max. I don't care how fast it is. I don't care if it's the fastest thing in the known universe. If it's still not as fluid as another experience, what's the point? It's lost fluidity. There's no fluidity. And maybe you're the type of person, again, the type of person who's been gaslighting me, telling me that there is no difference between 60 FPS and 120 FPS, that there is no animation jank, there is no judder. You've been wrong. But if you're the type of person that doesn't see that, cool, that's awesome. See, all I would have to be is you to solve my problem. Unfortunately, that's not practical. So the fact that now we've got Anon Tech coming out and saying, although scrolling through the viewport, when they're measuring this, happens at 120 hertz, actual content animations seem to be limited to 60. Now, Apple has said that they're going to be patching some things, but that it's up to third-party developers as to whether or not they enable their app to be 120 FPS. Which is baffling, because again, that was grandfathered in with the iPad Pro, but not on the iPhone. So it gives me, once again, the belief that it's all about battery optimization. But all I'm asking for, in relation to battery optimization, I would rather, honestly, I'm not joking. If you want an extra hour in the day to have your animations capped, cool. I would rather have the time I spend on my phone to be as fluid as possible. I would rather lose an hour, and that's egregious, right? That's just, I'm pulling that number out of thin air. I can't measure that demonstrably. There's no empirical evidence that that's how much shorter your battery life would be. I would rather lose an hour a day on my smartphone to have a more fluid experience when I use it than to have it last an extra hour, which I'm never going to use, because I get through the average day personally with most of my phablet devices with maybe 40% left average use. Maybe on extreme days, 20% less or 20% left. So Apple is doing this. They decided to do that, not me. Don't shoot the messenger. They decided to do this. And this is exactly the same reason why I've been telling you for years. Android is smoother. Android is more fluid. Not because of the hardware, but because of the software. The optimizations that Google has done, or Samsung, or name the OEM, right? Android is a bit of a blanket term because there are many implementations of Android, certainly different versions, just like there are different versions of iOS. Apple's deciding to do it differently. My question is still, why? Or just please give me a always fluid option. Just please, I beg you. I will force it every time. I do that on the Pixel 4 XL. Yeah, I force 90 all the time. You can't necessarily do that on other OEM devices as easily. Certainly, with any kind of straightforward options, even in dev options on Android devices. But I would rather know that I'm running as fluidly as I possibly can at every given moment. I don't care about battery life, which I realize doesn't sell new devices. I understand that. Some people need that extra battery life. I'm not denying them. I'm not. But the people that want the extra battery life are probably turning off the ProMotion display on their iPhone 13 Pro Max anyway. Do you feel me? So I understand the default shipping this way, but can you give the rest of us just a toggle, like always run fluid? Give me the top visual experience all the time. What happened to that? What happened to elevating the software experience? So again, I don't want to get into specs. So I'll continue to quote the article here. This is a difference to current Android devices, just like I said, which also render content animations at 120 hertz. So, do you want a device that has a 120 hertz display but doesn't run everything capable of running at 120 hertz, like animations at 120 hertz or third-party apps at 120 hertz? What are you paying for? Or knowing that you always have optimal animation experience all the time. What's more fluid? This is empirical. What's more fluid? An experience that is always 120 hertz when it needs to be, specifically animations. I'm not talking about stepping down. When it needs to be. Or would you rather have a more fluid experience when it just jumps down to 60 frames per second because that's the way the operating system wants to do it? Because reasons. I am fighting for a more fluid experience. That's it. That's all I want. I'm on this tear, and I've been on this tear because that's all I want. I'm team nobody. I'm team give us the best experience you possibly can. To anybody who would want my attention in anything they might be producing. I'm looking for that experience. I don't care about the hardware. I appreciate the software, and together giving a good experience. This to me is it's not going to be fixed because it's not broken. Do you feel me? Do you finally feel me years after going after this kind of stuff? Now I'll go even one step further. The author continues, this kind of got my goat. I don't think this is of any practical difference in experience, however interesting. Ugh.